And we're going to go live on Facebook. Choose where you want to post it. Okay. So I'm calling it Pivot and Adapt with Online Coaching. What do you think?
Okay.
Three minutes.
We have 3 minutes.
So it would be really super funny if like my husband comes back with my kid as they like barge through doors with groceries, which will be very, you know, real moments, right? Daycares are closed, so there you go.
I do have a backup internet source hooked up, so if for any reason you see me stutter step, just let me know and I will switch over.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to say, if you have an alternate internet source, that makes one of us. So I definitely do not. So I'm going to hit. So I'm going to hit live, and then I'm just going to go over to my little Slack channel just to watch thumbs up from John. And then it's going to be you and me, buddy.
Don't forget to breathe.
Yes, hitting live now. Okay, I think we might be live.
Looks that way.
Go ahead.
It looks that way. I see it on my Zoom side, live on Facebook.
Technology works. Yay. Hey, everyone. So believe it or not, I have an admission to make. Confession before we jump into this. This is my first Facebook Live. To this big of an audience anyway. So really glad everyone's joining us. We're going to give them a few minutes. I see folks are starting to pop in. And it's going to be myself, probably recognizing the name from the header, Kate Solovieva, and Brad, Mr. Brad Overstreet is joining me today.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. We have 1 minute to 12. Brad, how are you?
I'm doing good. I am not a newbie to Facebook Live, so
that's why you're here, buddy.
I might enjoy watching you squirm a little bit. This might be fun for me.
You won't be the first. Yeah, I bet. Get in line, Brad. Get in line to people who want to watch me squirm.
We could always use the PN motto: progress, not perfection. I mean,
that's right. You know, I'm mentally adjusting my questions that I'm going to ask. They just got a whole lot more difficult. So it's 12 o'clock on the dot. So let's kick this off. Welcome everyone to the first Facebook Live in the series. We're going to be live every day this week. right here in the Facebook group, chatting about different things that might be relevant to you these days, these uncertain days. And today I am joined by Brad Overstreet. And maybe I'll just pass over the mic to Brad here for a second. Can you tell us who's Brad? Who is Brad Overstreet?
That is a great question. I'll try and throw in just a little bit of street cred, if you will, to start off. I've been training since 19. Well, that's good. I've got a list. I've been working full time as a coach and training since 1995, 1994. So I've been in the industry a long time. I've seen a lot of changes. I've done everything from contractor work in a small gym to managing large private gyms, working in resorts, online training, hybrid training, on in CrossFit gyms, helping coaches grow gyms. I've seen a lot over the years. Also happen to be a father of a phenomenal 16-year-old, been married for 20 years, and currently working for PN full-time in the customer service department after I started as an assistant coach with Coach Craig a little over a year ago. And I also mentor folks inside of the OTA who may be coming up to roadblocks or tensions in their online training program and development style.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And maybe folks can give us some thumbs up here if you are as impressed with Brad's cred as I am. But for me personally, I know when things are uncertain, and I know things are quite uncertain for probably most of us in the world right now. I know that when I feel like I don't know what's next, I find myself reaching out to those with more experience and try to learn from them. And that's where Brad comes in today. And I find myself trying to learn from their actions, but even more so, I really try to learn from their mindset and attitude. So Brad, kind of back to you, what I would love for you to tell folks tuning in today is, what's your PN story? Everyone watching has a PN story. How did you find PN? How did PN find you?
That might be a better way to word it. I was in Las Vegas. My wife and I were in Las Vegas. We were 3 years into owning our CrossFit affiliate with a group called Mad Labs. And it's the first time I'd ever been to a group or convention of other affiliate owners or even personal trainers. I never really socialized with other trainers and stuff throughout my career. I just kind of stay focused on what I did and what I did best and move from there. But being inside of that group, I kept hearing these other trainers and coaches talk about precision nutrition. Well, after you hear something 10 or 15 times, I start to pay attention to it. So I went and researched it, signed up for my level 1, did my level 1. And then as soon as, I think it was April of 2017 or 2018, I can't remember, I signed up for my L2. And I was midway through my L2 with Coach Dom. And it was December 29th or 30th. And we decided to relocate our gym into a different building. It was going to give us a better offering. It was going to save us rent, which is a business owner, that's always awesome. Unfortunately, nobody caught the city zoning laws inside of the real estate deal we were doing. And on December 29th, we moved. On December 30th, we painted and brought in equipment. And on January 1st, the city told me I couldn't open. Due to city zoning laws, we were effectively shut down overnight. So from a thriving CrossFit community to nothing. And during that time, I've been working with Dom in my L2 and with Goodman in the OTA, already trying to see what maybe my future was and different avenues to create different revenue streams. But spending some time with Don and really starting to look at it from the level 2 perspective of looking at it through other lenses and seeing different scenarios play out, and the support from Dom as an individual, and the communications we had, it let me know that for me personally, PN was probably the most influential in that time of helping me through a really tough time and how to see it. And there was no actual advice given. It was just the PN way of asking questions and letting me formulate my answers to figure out my way out of the really bad position that I found my family and I in. You know, at that time, I think she was 13 or 14. I've got a wife and we have zero income other than my online training at the time, which wasn't a lot. He asked me the right questions to help me figure it out. And that's kind of my goal with others now. How do I ask the right questions?
I love hearing what an impact level 2 has made here. That little segue about level 2, I didn't expect that. And I just loved hearing what an incredible difference that made, and what a testament to Coach Dom, who I can attest personally is an incredible coach. And I know many people here know that. So if anyone here is in level 1 currently, or are considering not level 1, level 2, if anyone here currently is in level 2 certification or is considering level 2 in the future, let us know in the comments. Here's one coach's insight into that, and that what an amazing coach can do, especially at the right time, right? Like I heard that asking great questions and what a difference that made. And now you're kind of paying it forward, trying to do it for other people. Now, I want to take us back just a little bit, because I know you and I chatted off camera before. And one thing that stood out to me is in your 20 plus years of training individuals, you've come across sometimes when there was a lot of uncertainty. And one you just mentioned, it's when your gym was closed overnight. Can you tell us about another 1 or 2 times that are going to come to mind? Like there was a period of time when things were just really uncertain and people were uncertain.
For those old enough to remember Enron, when I worked in downtown Houston, Enron was one of our biggest clients. So when Enron shut down, I was without clients.
Can you give us a bit of context
Houston,
for those not familiar? Like what is Enron? Why did it make such
Enron was a large company that took up a lot of business space down in Houston. You could go back and look at how, that's a long story there. Effectively though, I trained a lot of their people and worked with a lot of companies that supported that group. So with every hierarchy, with every big business, there's small businesses that support it. And so these were all clients of mine. So when one shuts down and the money dries up, the luxury item that we offer of relationships and training dry up as well. And so that was one. Living in Southeast Texas and Houston, I've been through several hurricanes. When Houston flooded, I was there for that. When Allison came in, I walked through that. And again, this is before there were other options. It's just the gym was closed because it was underwater. There was no other option to do anything. 9/11 was another impactful moment inside of the industry.
Where were you? There's the famous question, where were you on September 11th, 2000?
On September 11th, I was in the Woodlands, at a place called the Woodlands Country Club, high-end country club. And I remember watching the second plane make impact. And then the phone call started coming, and it just, from there, the news media.
How did the uncertainty kind of in the weeks following impact what you were doing at the time? Because what did people
Houston
feel?
makes a good target. There were 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, scares down in Houston where they shut down parts of downtown Houston. And what we had a lot of people in our area that worked in the oil and gas industry, and that created uncertainty in what was going to happen. We had people, the wives of the people that worked in downtown were now all of a sudden found themselves at home, and the wives were not coming in to work out at the country club. And so there was no real, there was fear, and fear causes a lot of reactions in people, be it founded or unfounded, doesn't matter. If the person has the fear, it's their fear, and you let them have that. That's their ownership. And so it just created a lot of fear and uncertainty in people, and so they weren't going out into places that maybe would present them away from their family in a time of need.
So people would actually avoid crowds and public spaces at the
Correct.
time. And obviously an incredibly different set of circumstances, but I am hearing a little bit of a parallel in how people react during times that are uncertain, right? And this, I think, applies as we speak of coaching and we speak of our clients. I think that applies to both, because it's not we coaches and they clients, but rather we humans react this particular way when things are uncertain.
Correct.
Something that stood out to me as you were speaking is that as you kind of recalling a couple of these periods of time that were uncertain, something like online training was not actually an option at the time. Like it wasn't an option 20 years ago. I don't even know if it was an option 10 years ago.
It wasn't an option in 2001. In 2001, I had to figure out other pathways to listen to my clients and meet what they were telling me they wanted.
So how did
it's for every.
You've mentioned that moment when you found out overnight that your gym was closing. How did you find yourself reacting maybe at the time, and then how did you pivot in the few months that followed?
Due to the other circumstances I've mentioned in the past, Enron, 9/11, all of these were great training tools to observe in my business of holes, of a lack of planning and foresight on my part. Not that anybody can really plan or see that coming, but it provided me opportunities to structure my businesses each time moving forward to make them more bulletproof, if you will, or more resistant or resilient. And it was, for me, it was a mindset. It had to do with the mentally seeing where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And then most importantly, or one of the important steps, having other people believe and offer insight into that. Now, at the time, there weren't any trainers that I could rely on. So I looked at other industries, and in our case, that was oil and gas. So I happen to know a lot of folks who had lived through oil and gas depressions. There were wealth of information on how to structure a business to maybe be a little more resilient in this time, and different revenue streams and how you do it. So whenever the gym closed overnight, I still had a half dozen online training clients that didn't get affected. They the gym closing. So I still had a revenue source.
So when the gym closed, you had like a handful of online clients at the time. How were you training them? So you ran sessions in the gym in person, obviously, before that, but with these online folks, what did you do?
For me, it was a neat. I'd have to back up a little bit. It started in 2012, maybe, whenever we thought about opening the gym. And after 9/11, I started going to more people's homes and doing in-home training. And then we had FaceTime and Skype and Google Hangouts and all these cool tools come out. And when we opened the gym, I was not able to still drive and maintain relationships with these long-term clients that I had that started in a gym, just due to geographical location. I couldn't make those drives every day and provide a service to our members at the gym. So I started playing around with FaceTime and Skype. And what I initially did is I still went to their houses, but we trained via camera from other rooms. So I brought a little tripod stand with the little googly arms and put the little camera on, their phone on it. They FaceTime me. I went in the other room just to see. So if I had a discretion in what I was looking at on camera versus in person, I could walk in the other room and see what was going on. So it really provided me the best of both worlds. And then as I learned what a camera shows me versus what a in-person shows me, I got better at doing that. And then we set up an objective up front. Hey, this is going to last for 4 weeks with me coming to the house. And then it's going to go to online, to where I could literally be anywhere. They could call me in via FaceTime, or whatever method they wanted to do it worked best for them. It's really whatever was easy for them. That's how I would communicate with them, and wherever I was or they were, we could train. Now, the aha moment for me in this entire process was when a client was at the beach in North Carolina, and I was on vacation with my family, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm still maintaining a great relationship with a client. And it struck me as I can't believe after all of these years and all of this trial and error and in this time frame, I was able to actually to put that together, to see it actually come to fruition.
What's the longest clients that you have had an online coach client relationship with?
I've got a few clients that I've had relationships with for close to 20 years now. Most of those, well, all of those that I have had to make the switch they all started in a gym, from a gym to at home, to at hybrid, which was partly online, partly in person, to all online now.
So what's really cool, what really stands out to me is that with your gym closing overnight, you got no notice, obviously. So that change was actually quite sudden, right? It was an overnight change. And
literally,
what you had to do overnight in that situation is not to change your entire approach to coaching, but rather start taking small steps immediately. But there was a number of things you've experimented with over kind of a period of time. So you've mentioned starting to go to clients' homes more, for example. I think you've mentioned also the expression hybrid training, either now when you and I were chatting earlier. Can you speak to that? Like, what's hybrid training?
Yeah. Hybrid training is I first came across that in the OTA, Online Trainer Academy. And it basically is a combination of two. So in my experience, again, this doesn't work for everybody. I'm just providing a background of my personal experience. Okay. Clients love the relationship. You may look at yourself as a trainer, but really to your clients, a lot of times you're more than that. If people have been training you're a therapist, you're a counselor, you're a confidant, you're a safety zone. And so when I started realizing that the mode of training, as long as I provided those same services, the median of training didn't really matter. So I had the opportunity through a lot of what I like to call failing forward, if you will, and working on progress, not perfection, to throw two of my favorite quotes out there. It was not being afraid to try something, collecting the data on it and seeing what did or didn't work, and then talking to my clients about it. Because in this whole process, it wasn't just me by myself. It was my client and I. After 20 years, they're friends, their family. I've watched their kids grow up and go on to careers, and each one of those was a stepping stone into learning how to do it slightly better. And that progression has never stopped. It's always there. So the hybrid client is, to get back to your question, is a combination of seeing them sometimes in person and sometimes remotely. It may mean that you see them in person most of the time, and then when they're on vacation, you train them remotely. Or it may mean that they travel a lot. There's a lot of clients that I've worked with that travel all over. And so being able to have a combination of both is what we call a hybrid client, or what John called, the first time I saw the message, what John called a hybrid client.
And when you say John, you mean John Goodman?
John Goodman, correct. Yeah, sorry, so yes, John Goodman.
A lot of folks here are probably familiar with John Goodman's work as well. And I mean, we've partnered, Precision Nutrition has partnered with John Goodman's online trainer academy a number of times. Any folks here have heard of OTA before and John Goodman? Let us know in the comments. And Brad, the question I have for you, because you talk about this shift and experimenting with number of things. When you find yourself starting to go to clients' homes, for example, I think Wendy Sosa is asking, have clients purchased their own equipment at the time, or did you find yourself having to be like very creative and doing body weight workouts? Like, what did it look like?
That is an awesome question, Wendy. It looked like a progression of failures. Initially, I bought a set of the first power blocks that came out, which were adjustable dumbbells, and I outfitted the trunk of my car with as much fancy stuff as I can most possibly get into the back of a Honda Civic. and I drove to houses and I would break out sandbags and I would break out these dumbbells. And it came down to the client and asking the client, what did they prefer in their workout program? As trainers, and this is the long answer, I apologize. As trainers, we often feel like we have to provide the next shiny, flashy object to keep our clients engaged. In my personal experience, I found that I just asked the client what they wanted. You know, how often do you want your program to change? Sometimes they're adverse to change, and if they want their program to stay the same, that's their prerogative, and that's where I met them. But a lot of times, body weight can be it is really awesome stuff, and can help most clients get to their goals. If you're PN level 1 style eating habits and clients, body weight covers most of the stuff. And if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I'll throw a book out there that's really awesome. It's called Convict Conditioning by Paul Wade, and it absolutely blew my mind on what the body does or can do with just body weight movements. And then so I started looking for examples of how fit can people get with body weight. And if you go looking, I'll use prison as an example because that's what Paul comes from. I figured out you only need 16 square feet of space. Anybody can get fit, healthy, maintain it in 16 square feet of space and move forward and stay healthy in their endeavors for general health and wellness.
And I'm thinking of how many recommendations we have seen and options I bet coaches in this group could come up with for something like a hotel workout. And if you think of like what's really there at a hotel, you have 3 feet of space beside your bed. Maybe
beside your bed.
I think here I want to pause because I actually heard 2 very specific recommendations from you as you spoke, and I want to make sure that folks don't miss it. So one, I heard you used a couple of quotes, such as quotes or favorite sayings. You said, "Progress, not perfection."
Progress, not perfection.
Stuck out at me. I think we've all heard that one before, but also that idea of meeting your clients where they're at, regardless of what it is you're doing, like whether you're training them through body weight movements, whether you're designing their workouts, whether you're working on their nutrition, the meeting the clients where they're at. So really appreciating the level that they're at, the skills that they might have or not have in any given moment. So I'm thinking obviously of Precision Nutrition Level 1 certification. And I'd love to see, like in the comments, let us know if you're level 1 grad or if you're currently working on your level 1. And if you're currently working on level 1, how far off are you from graduating? Are you almost there? You chapter 2, or maybe if you haven't cracked your textbooks yet, that's okay too. Let us know, because I think a lot of you are there. And the other book that I heard Brad mention, Convict Conditioning. So
Convict Conditioning.
Convict Conditioning. So we'll look it up maybe on Amazon and drop that link in the comments as well.
It's also a Kindle book and travels well.
There you go.
And there's a couple of different versions of it as well. The client-centered coaching really for me didn't develop until I got into PN. If I'm just, it highlighted at the time when I was in PN, we owned a CrossFit gym. And what I had discovered was most CrossFit gyms, their programming represented their coaches. So what the coaches wanted, that's what they programmed. And most people tend to program towards their strengths, not their weaknesses.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty. Yeah, right here. Guilty. I'm a body weight ninja. I love. You guys
give us a hand if you're guilty as charged. You find yourself programming to your own strengths.
So gyms do the same thing. And then whenever I was going through PN and I started looking at client-centered coaching, it really turned the mirror around on me and said, hey, you do the same exact thing. And that's when our gym actually made the biggest changes. I started asking our clients, what were they looking for? You know, what do you what are you looking for? What are you ready, willing, and able to do? And the 5 whys of why is this important to you? And we started structuring around that, and we saw a huge bump in membership and success. And then I rolled that knowledge over into working with my personal clients. And it made a big difference when I took the focus off of me. This current situation would be a great example. If you currently have clients we all know you're uncertain right now of what's going on in your life. And that is valid and important and everything else, but also what's going on in your clients' lives. Do they have kids at home? Are there, is in my area, is oil and gas going down? Well, what does that mean for them? And then it's a cup of coffee or a conversation with them. How can I best support you during this time? And that's really the first question I start with anything. What can I do for you? Was that Jerry Maguire? Help me help you.
Help you.
That's where it started. And some clients maybe, I can't get out of the house with the kids. Okay, so ask yourself, how can I help that? Can we go to parks? Can we meet at their house? Can we put sanitation protocols into place that make them feel better with you coming over?
Well, what stands out
the
for
first
me
step was that.
Was you're chatting, what you're talking about here is interesting because at any given moment, we can pause and observe what is the same right now and what is different right now.
What is different? There you go. Yeah.
It's the question about, hey, how can I be most helpful? How can I support you in your journey right now? That is the same, right? Like this is coaching as coaching is. There will be circumstances that are different. And that's the part where we might have to pivot and adapt, right? And what I'm really taking away from Brad today, and I hope you are too, is that openness to experiment with new things, knowing that some of them might work, some of them might not work, and some of them might work really, really well, because here we are 20 years later and Brad is coaching online. And I think if his clients went through a very uncertain period of time, as they probably are right now, Brad, I imagine you're not as impacted today as you were that day in January when you found out that your gym was being closed overnight, right? And that took a long time, and that took various approaches that you've tried. So the one thing, and I'm cognizant of the time here, but one thing I kind of want to pause on, because there was something that you came back to again and again, and it was relationships. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how do those, why are they so important? And what do you mean when you say relationships?
I call it being a decent human being, putting others' needs before yours, and loving someone. They all sound simple, but require you to be an active listener. And again, I'll go back to I can't give Dom enough credit in this, slowing down and listening, getting off your own agenda, but being a friend to somebody. And this is one situation that we're currently in, but it could also be that you have a client who battles with an injury and they were on this path for this growth and an injury set in. How are you compassionate to that person? What are you doing to provide compassion in that person's time of need? And the more empathy and more compassion I provided to my clients, the more they made sure they kept that relationship going with me. And just something to throw out there now, because it could be relevant. I have clients that still come back to me years later because they had to stop training or could no longer train for periods of time. I'm still the trainer they come back to because I still stay in touch with them. Just because a client's going through a hard time right now doesn't mean that relationship is over. It means you as a trainer, me as a trainer, I work really hard to, like I said, have a cup of coffee goes a long way with somebody, and being able to keep that relationship.
Brad, you actually mentioned the word injury there, and I want to loop in. We had a very specific question from Michelle Johnson-Jerome. So she says, body weight exercises are fine for people at different physical abilities, but I think it's important to look at the weaknesses. So what if a client has bad knees, bad shoulders, or perhaps is severely obese, where body weight exercises don't fit the client? So we do tend to train our clients to our ability, but what if the client's best ability is limited? What suggestions do you have for Michelle?
Michelle, that is a great question, and let me share with you two experiences. My oldest client to date is 93 years old. So I've trained clients in their 90s, in their 80s. I've got clients in their 80s now that started when they were in their 60s. So I understand exactly where you're coming
Hold on,
from.
we're going to pause right there. You have a client who is 93 years old.
He passed.
Okay, he passed. So, but
he passed. He was a client for 10 years.
Passed away.
Yeah, I have another client, husband and wife. She passed away 2 years ago. I worked with her up until the day she passed. Was there at the hospital bed with her. Husband is still alive at 84 and still work with him. And you meet the client where she is. Moira was in a wheelchair. Our workout consisted of standing up one time, consisted of some light band work and a cup of coffee. To me, it doesn't sound like much. To her, it was everything in the world to keep some semblance of a pattern, to have me show up, to be there with her, with people that are limited in mobility. There is a ton of great resources online for how to work with people with limited mobility. I'll go back to convict conditioning again, because I like the way he sets it up. And I'll use a squat as an example. Everybody thinks a squat would be the highest level of squatting, or I did. Let me rephrase that. I thought when I thought of squats, a squat, just squatting up and down, would be your highest level of squat, but that's not really it. A one-legged squat or a pistol is your highest level of squat, and then for reps. So in the book, that book specifically, it breaks down the squat from 1 to 10, with 10 being a one-legged squat, 1 being a wall squat, and a very basic wall squat. And so I'll be the first to tell you.
Essentially me with my back against the wall, trying to bend my knees just
correct
as much as I can.
Correct. Just try and have a stable platform so you can slide up and down on. And I'll be the first to say that I am not a great programmer. I actually do not enjoy programming. It is not my cup of tea. So I look at all the amazing resources now that are out there and try and learn from those that are, and take what they're doing and craft it into what works for my clients and their needs, and then discuss it with the clients.
We have folks that are amazing at programming in this group.
Right.
And I've asked for some recommendations for at-home workouts, and the community has really delivered. So please check out a couple of those threads. There are a couple of more questions here that, Brad, I want to throw your way. So Momo is asking about various ways to stay in touch with your client. So we can offer videos. She teaches Pilates on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. So what to do if your clients are maybe not technically savvy, or they don't agree to get on a Skype or Google Hangouts or Instagram or Facebook Live? Like, what would you do? Somebody who either refuses or just doesn't have the technical ability to do that?
I'll refer back to my clients that were in their 70s when we started this.
Yeah, I thought of like snail mail. Yeah. I'll be honest. Like, I actually thought of snail mail. Like,
I still use snail mail. I still send postcards. 100%. With people that are not technically savvy, they're fearful because it's something they haven't done before. Similar to a coach maybe getting into online training and is fearful of switching mediums of communicating with clients. It's the same fear, so it's a valid fear. One of my favorite acronyms that I use all the time for fear is false evidence appearing real. I had a client share that with me, but their fear of technology is because they just have never used it, touched it, and maybe they've seen things about it. So can you show them, or just ask them, hey, I understand you're fearful of taking your cell phone and using FaceTime. Can you tell me what that's about? Is there a way I can help you with that? If not, how would you like to maintain this? What works best for you? How would you like to maintain our relationship? Because you're valuable to me as a person, regardless of our client relationship. You're a valuable person in my life. How can we maintain our relationship? And they're happy to tell you.
So again, it's like, as a coach, I can meet my client where I'm at, but also continue experimenting, right? And maybe you've never stayed in touch with a client over snail mail, especially if you are an online coach, but now might be a time to try that. Postcards.
Yeah. It's wherever they want to, it's wherever they want to meet you. And that's where you meet them.
That's great. Well, I'm looking at the time, and I think I wanna press pause here. I know I can talk to Brad for hours on end. We might just do that after I press pause. But I hope you guys will tune in tomorrow at the same time at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we will continue chatting about some strategies. And tomorrow we'll be talking about various tools and softwares you might be using for online coaching. Now, Brad has kindly agreed to answer any possible questions that you might have thought of throughout this Facebook Live. So if you want to comment on this Facebook Live and ask him a question, and this especially applies to those of you tuning in later and rather than watching live, we will make sure that we get back to you, or Brad gets back to you himself. And I really appreciate your time today, Brad. And those of you that are both watching live and tuning in, making time for this later in the day. We'll see you tomorrow.